All right, everyone, we have a pretty good turnout. I'm going to begin the session. Can everyone see my screen? It should be displaying West Virginia outdoor economy. Great. Thanks so much, everyone. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the West Virginia Outdoor Economy webinar series. We are so excited to have you here with us today for our very first session. Before we dive in, I want to cover a few quick housekeeping items. Please keep your microphone muted during the presentation so we can minimize background noise. The session is being recorded and we'll share it on our YouTube channel so you'll be able to rewatch it and pass it along to colleagues and community members who couldn't be here today. And we'd really appreciate if you would share it out and to help pass along this webinar. And finally, at the end of the presentations, we'll have a dedicated Q&A session where you'll have the chance to ask questions directly to our presenters. Now, this webinar is a brand new initiative from the Brad and Alys Smith Outdoor Economic Development Collaborative. Our goal with this series is simple but powerful. It's to bring people together across the sectors, all of us in the room, and communities to learn, connect, and to spark action around the outdoor economy in West Virginia. We know that outdoor recreation is more than just something we do in our free time. It's a growing economic driver, and it's the reason people choose to live and work in places like West Virginia. And it's a critical part of building thriving and resilient, robust communities. So that's why this conversation matters, and that's why we're glad you're here today. So the theme for today's session is understanding the national and statewide landscape. We'll look at where West Virginia fits into our national picture and how our state is leveraging the outdoors to grow its outdoor economy and improve quality of life. This is the first of the series of the webinars. We'll have many different webinars and many different topics that will be released later throughout the year and going on forward. But future sessions will highlight success stories from around West Virginia, dig into practical tools for communities, and uplift voices from industry, government, nonprofits, residents who are shaping this work on the ground. So if you have a topic in mind that you'd like to learn about or you think you would be fit to give a presentation, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear you. Our hope is that by the end of this series, you'll have not only new knowledge, but also new connections and ideas that you can take back to your own communities, or if you're a technical assistance provider, be able to help communities. So at the OEDC, we frame our work around three guiding ideas: purpose, vision, and mission. Our purpose is addressing population loss in West Virginia. That's a challenge that so many of our communities face, but also one we see as an opportunity. Our vision is a West Virginia where all communities are vibrant and thriving, and we believe fundamentally that the corner of every state has unique strengths and stories, and our outdoor recreation can be a catalyst to unlocking that potential. And our mission is to empower those communities and partners to advance West Virginia's outdoor economy. And we do that by listening to local voices like yourself, building partnerships, and investing in capacity and infrastructure. We do that we have two departments. We address population loss through our quality of life and through our a talent attraction and retention program. Uh, these two departments are what make up the OEDC. And to give you a little bit more of the background, first is uh, attracting and retaining talent. Programs like Ascend West Virginia, First Ascend, Teachers Ascend. They're creating new pathways for people to come to West Virginia, connect with our communities, and put down roots. And second is advancing West Virginia's outdoor economy. That's where the department that I work in and that you're interfacing with today. That includes training and education, Trail Training and Resource Education Center, supporting outdoor infrastructure across the state of West Virginia, and helping outdoor businesses grow, strengthen nonprofits, and conduct research to help guide smart investments. One example of how this plays out is our West Virginia Trail Training and Education Resource Center, where we offer both volunteer and professional training and trail stewardship for outdoor tourism development. This year, we're hosting workshops from all across the state, everything from trail building to rock armoring and many more. So these trainings are not only to build local skills, but they're also to help professionals in the space. And so this is a type of hands-on capacity building work that connects directly back to our mission and supports communities statewide. I also have a really special announcement to be able to share with you all, and that is our um, our Outdoor Economy Summit. We're proud to announce the first ever West Virginia Outdoor Economy Summit. This is your save the date, happening in February 17th and 18th. This will be a statewide gathering where community leaders, businesses, policymakers, and outdoor enthusiasts can come together to share ideas and learn from each other. It'll be in our state capitol. And then following the summit will be a day at the Capitol, an outdoor recreation day at the Capitol. And this will be an opportunity to highlight the importance of outdoor economy directly to our state leaders to showcase its role in shaping West Virginia's future. So please mark this on your calendar. Of course, today's spotlight is on the bigger picture, and we're honored to have with us two outstanding thought leaders and speakers. First, Chris Perkins, Vice President of Programs at Outdoor Recreation Roundtable. Chris will share insights from the national landscape, trends, data, policy shaping outdoor recreation across the country. Then we'll hear from Dr. Danny Twilley, Assistant Vice President of Economic, Community, and Asset Development here at WVU. Danny will bring it home to West Virginia and highlight where we are today, what successes we can celebrate, and where the biggest opportunities and challenges lie for our state. So together, their perspectives will help us see how West Virginia is both part of a larger national movement and also charting its own path forward. So once again, thank you all for being here. We're thrilled to have such a diverse audience and community leaders, policymakers, to business owners, nonprofits, outdoor enthusiasts. Thank you all so much. We encourage you to participate actively. Use the chat, share questions, thoughts. We'll have time for Q&A after our speakers. So with that, let's get started. And I'll first hand it over to Chris Perkins from the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable to walk us through the national landscape of the outdoor recreation economy. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Chris, you can take it away.
Thank you, Corey. I'm sending a request your way to share my screen.
Yep.
Super exciting to see that announcement about the Outdoor Economy Summit. I'm going to assume it was intentionally on my birthday, so it gives me a good reason to come to West Virginia for the conference next year. And I get to learn from Corey, Danny, Andy, and the whole OEDC team quite frequently. So to be here to present is a real privilege. That's not the screen I want to share. Here we go. So my job at the start of this conversation is to make sense of the moment that we're in for outdoor recreation across the country. And via my role at the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, I really live, eat, sleep, and breathe outdoor recreation. And when I have the opportunity to get away from my 2 and 3-year-old, I even get the chance to do it sometimes, which is pretty special. So I'm going to walk through a few of the things that we're seeing on the national level. And I'm going to start with the news. If you, like me, have been following the news related to outdoor recreation over the past few years, you know that something is different now than it was before. Leaders of various geographies and political stripes in places both urban and rural are investing in outdoor recreation infrastructure and access like never before as millions more get outdoors. And of course, the COVID pandemic was a big driver of this. But the after effects of the pandemic and the new world, the new economy that we're seeing, even looking at things like the rise of technology and social media, all play an important role in explaining why the outdoors is so central to who we are as a country, and particularly to the health of our economy. And of course, this conversation exists at scale in West Virginia as well. And Danny, who will follow me, will go deep on what this looks like across the state. My name is Chris Perkins. I'm the Vice President of Programs at the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable. And what you're seeing here is all the organizations who make up ORR. And what's neat about this set of logos is that it represents the full spectrum of outdoor recreation activities. So that's hiking, biking, skiing, climbing, hunting, fishing, boating, motorized, RV, camping, hospitality, horseback riding, you name it, as well as many colleges and universities, state offices of outdoor recreation, and other organizations. And together we work together to elevate the importance of the outdoor recreation economy to leaders across the country. We also talk internally about the issues of shared importance that all outdoor recreationists agree on. I wanted to start my presentation with a quote. This is a quote from a federal report on outdoor recreation. It reads, "Demand for overnight accommodations at public parks is far greater than the supply. The demand is surging. Americans are seeking the outdoors as never before. This is only a foretaste of what is to come. Not only will there be many more people, they will want to do more, and they will have more money and time to do it with." I really like this quote because I think it captures the current moment quite well. It's also from 1962, from a report that was commissioned in the Eisenhower administration and delivered to the Kennedy administration to capture the role of outdoor recreation in America. And I share this because there's a tendency to think that outdoor recreation is fairly new in the United States, when in fact it's been an integral part of our identity and economy for a long time. What's different now is the level of coordination around policy and advocacy that ORR helps lead. And this is the main issue that we're facing right now, which is that we're seeing many more recreationists, by some metrics, millions more recreationists than ever before, but fewer lifelong devotees. And by that, I mean more people picking up a fishing rod for the first time, fewer people going back to the end of the dock several times a week to go fishing. I think this represents a great opportunity for us collectively to integrate a new generation into the outdoors and all the benefits that that provides. But we need to do it together. And that's where ORR hopes to play a central role. We meet with leaders across administrations and across parties to help expand recreational access, improve infrastructure, conserve public resources, and grow the outdoor rec economy. Just like any other prominent industry in the country, we think outdoor recreation deserves to have a seat at the table. And before I go any further, I thought it'd be helpful to have a shared definition for outdoor recreation for the purposes of this call. And we use the definition that the US Bureau of Economic Analysis provides in their outdoor recreation economy measurement every year. They say outdoor recreation is all activities done for pleasure which occur outdoors. So thinking of that, there's a real spectrum of rec activities, from those that are more high intensity, adrenaline filled, to even more passive activities like sitting outside, bird watching, painting, etc. And those activities can take place both far from home in a more wilderness-like setting. They can also take place in our urban and more developed communities just a few minutes from one's front door. And so with that spectrum in mind, you can think about the organizations that contribute to the outdoor rec economy. In the private sector, you have manufacturing, retail, and guides and outfitters. In the public sector, you have community economic development groups, tribal nations, and local, state, and federal agencies. Nonprofit sector, you have community groups, Service Corps, advocacy and trade associations, all working together to deliver high quality outdoor experiences to the American public. And with that diversity of organizations in mind, you start to realize there's a lot of different careers in the outdoor rec economy. And this is a breakdown of outdoor recreation careers that we've put out through some of our workforce research. It breaks outdoor rec careers into three categories. On one hand, you have the technical specialists. These are people who like solving design challenges, working to build things. They don't mind being behind the scenes. Folks like boat and RV technicians or ski lift technicians, biologists, trail builders, permitters, GIS experts, etc. You have the public engagement roles. These are ones that we've all encountered firsthand when we go into the outdoors. Folks like education and interpretive staff, sales and customer service, travel advisors, event planners, guides and outfitters, etc. And then you have integrators who kind of span both verticals. These are people who have both public facing as well as internal technical work woven into their job. Land managers, recreation managers, social scientists, product designers, corporate sustainability, outdoor rec policy, etc. I think it's important to have this full list of outdoor rec careers in front of us, because most people, when you approach them off the street, say there's work for you in the outdoor industry, they tend to gravitate toward that middle column. And in fact, all these categories contribute to high quality outdoor rec experiences. And I think we need to do a better job collectively of telling that complete story. Speaking of a complete story, the US Bureau of Economic Analysis measures the size of the outdoor rec economy every year. Most recent data we have is from 2023 when the BEA measured outdoor rec as a $1.2 trillion contributor to the US economy. It's 2.3% of US GDP, 5 million jobs, growing faster than the US economy as a whole. And putting that into perspective, that's really, really significant. That's larger than some of these prominent industries you see that are thought to be as pillars of the US economy. Now you can zoom in on West Virginia in particular, and Danny's going to talk more about outdoor rec in West Virginia. But in West Virginia, it's a $2.1 billion economy, which is 2% of GDP, over 20,000 jobs across the state. And then left to right, you can see the largest segments of the rec economy in West Virginia: boating and fishing, RVing, motorcycling, ATVing, hunting, shooting, and trapping, equestrian, climbing, hiking, and tent camping, snow activities, and bicycling. Now, at the bottom there, you see that West Virginia is behind its peers relatively in terms of its size and growth. But I'm here to say that the OEDC is the reason that these metrics are going to change. OEDC is an investment in West Virginia's outdoor rec future that is positioning the state to be a national leader in terms of the growth and size of the outdoor rec economy. So I'm looking forward to coming back in 10 years and giving the same presentation and seeing where West Virginia's outdoor rec economy stacks up, thanks to the amazing work of the OEDC and those of you on this call. And finally, we also know that outdoor rec is an amazing contributor to public health. There is data and research that shows that outdoor rec improves rates of things like heart disease and diabetes and obesity. It reduces cortisol levels and improves self-reported mental health, physical health, etc. And so I think we have another opportunity at large to scale public health solutions through outdoor recreation. One of the biggest collective wins for the outdoor rec economy in recent years is the passage of the Explore Act, which passed the last Congress via unanimous consent. The Explore Act is a collection of policy updates, rules, and regulations that really meet the moment for outdoor recreation in the United States, whether that's better data collection or improved permitting reform for guides and outfitters, support for gateway communities like those communities around the New River Gorge in West Virginia, broadband internet connectivity, long distance biking trails, and more. It's the largest piece of legislation for outdoor recreation in American history, and every single member of Congress voted for this bill. That's something that's usually reserved for things like naming post offices or other more benign functions of government. But every member of Congress thought that this bill was important enough to get their vote, and President Biden signed it into law at the conclusion of his term. I'd argue that this is made possible by the entire rec community coming together around a big opportunity. I want to shift gears for a moment and talk about some data that I think really informs the work of ORR nationally and OEDC in state in West Virginia. And I'm going to share some data from Utah, where they interviewed tech sector workers who were coming back to the state. They said, you could work in any state in the country in the tech industry. Why are you coming to Utah? And the number one reason of those surveyed, cited by 82%, was access to the outdoors. And number two was family. This is, of course, in Utah, a very family-forward state. And so I share this data to note that when we invest in outdoor recreation infrastructure and access, we're not just doing that for outdoor rec state. We're investing in a potent recruitment and retention tool across industries. And I think West Virginia has really picked up on this relationship. I used to just end the slide right here. And then recent data came out from Maine citing the same relationship where outdoor recreation amenities were the number one reason influencing the decision to move to Maine. So West Virginia has a huge asset in terms of its natural resources as an economic development tool. The data supports this relationship as well. You're seeing on the left there the relationship between quality of life on the x-axis and population and employment growth. So improvements in quality of life, including things like increased recreation access and opportunities, increased population growth and employment growth. On the other hand, improvements in business environment, which is basically like how much a business is willing to pay to be in a place, do not show that same correlation between population and employment growth. So across the country, leaders are picking up on this, not just in local towns, but also at the state level. That's why 24 states now have created offices of outdoor recreation. In 2013, Utah Governor Gary Herbert created the first office of outdoor rec. He envisioned a central hub through which all the state's priorities in conservation and stewardship, economic development, workforce development, public health, and outdoor access, all related to outdoor recreation, would flow through. And I think what stands out about this map is not just the geographic diversity, but also the political diversity. You have, on one hand, governors like Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Bill Lee and Spencer Cox of Utah and former Governor Doug Burgum of North Dakota who created these offices. At the same time, you have Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania or Wes Moore of Maryland or Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. And in lieu of an official state structure in West Virginia, I'd argue that the OEDC is doing many of these functions of a state office. So West Virginia is very lucky to have the leadership of OEDC in coordinating many of these initiatives. To celebrate the growth of the state office movement, we reached out to governors from across the country and asked them in their own words to describe why outdoor rec was so important to them. I wanted to share that video now.
And with that, I'll hand it over to Governor Josh Shapiro.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. Hey, Connellsville, it's a good day, isn't it?
Happy Great Outdoors Month. There's no better place to celebrate than right here in Pure, Michigan.
Arkansas's outdoors are like none other.
Washington has the best outdoors.
You know, Wyoming really is the best outdoor recreation state in the country.
Over a decade ago, Utah became the first state to create an Office of Outdoor Recreation, really setting a national standard that over 20 states now have followed.
Our goal with the newly established Office of Outdoor Recreation is to ensure that everyone, from lifelong Arizonans to first-time visitors, can experience our state's incredible natural beauty now and in the future.
Our Office of Outdoor Recreation is key to leveraging our state's natural assets to grow the outdoor recreation economy.
Speaking of outdoor recreation, in Wisconsin, it saw another record-breaking year in 2023.
The stronger our outdoor recreation economy is, the stronger our main streets are.
Utah's outdoor recreation economy reached a record-breaking $9.5 billion in 2023.
Tens of billions of dollars of economic impact, hundreds of thousands of jobs.
From gear manufacturers and guides to ski resorts and sea kayaking outfitters.
Park rangers to boat captains to volunteers, trail designers, builders, those who craft and sell adventure gear.
My family and I love to get outside.
I'm working on climbing the 100 highest peaks in Washington State.
I like hikes. I like to go on a hike. I get out of the Capitol, everybody's all stressed. I find a long hike is very therapeutic.
Outdoor recreation isn't just a part of life here, it's at the heart of who we are.
Republicans and Democrats working together to support outdoor recreation. You know what? It's not a partisan issue. It's a common sense issue.
So I'd argue that that level of recognition from governors is no small feat. And again, something that's been accomplished by the recreation community coming together, not just about the physical health, the community benefits of time outdoors, but also the economic benefits of investments in the outdoor rec economy. For this reason, we're leading a campaign this year called 25 in 2025 to encourage states to create that 25th Office of Outdoor Recreation this year, as well as celebrate the offices that already exist. And that leads us to our rural economic development work, which is so pertinent to the conversation in West Virginia and where I'm going to close the remarks today. So we've done years of research on rural economic development through outdoor rec and how to do it best. We published the second edition of our toolkit in 2024. And when we put it out there, you don't know how many people are going to sign up. And we were really blown away to see the level of interest from across the country, from community leaders who want to diversify and build more authentic economies through outdoor rec. And you see a real density there in the Appalachian region, which of course is no surprise to all of us on this call. The goals of the toolkit are to define the process, to outline best practices, to plan proactively. So here you see Corey with his community leaders in Beckley, talking about the growth of their outdoor rec economy and strategies for success to help the community tap in to nearby recreation as a real economic driver. And also to spotlight great work. And importantly, throughout all of this is getting ahead of challenges that many recreation communities have faced, whether that be things like strains on infrastructure or housing and affordability, keeping the workforce local, human wildlife interactions, and more. We think that if we can put out these best practices that have been sourced from communities around the country, we can allow recreation communities to get ahead of those challenges, to capture wealth and economic impact from outdoor recreation in their local communities, and importantly, to build an economy and a community where their residents want to stay, where those fifth, sixth generation residents want to keep coming back and raise their own kids. And we see outdoor recreation as really core to that. So the toolkit, and I'll share this in the chat shortly, has several best practices, practices from the field, etc. Recently, we hosted a forum in Pittsburgh. Danny was there. It was terrific. And the purpose of this forum was to really activate the ecosystem of partners around rural economic development through outdoor rec. And as part of that, we just published our trail map for rural development in America. This is a set of best practices in education, community visioning, financing and implementation, resilience and innovation to really help ensure that state and federal agencies and academic institutions and NGOs and tribes and outdoor businesses and all the stakeholders around rural America are united in the ways to help rural America succeed. As part of the launch of this, I was very privileged to go to Old Fort, North Carolina, which is one of those communities that's really leading economic development through outdoor rec, and present Hurricane Helene recovery and rebuilding grants recently. And Old Fort is just one of many examples of communities who are really coming together around outdoor rec. As part of the rural development conversation, first and foremost is workforce development. And so through our workforce hub, we put out many tools, including this career map of all the different colleges and universities in the outdoor rec economy. In our research, we found 4 key opportunities. First is that we need to better define outdoor skills and close the skills gap. And by that, I mean in verticals like law enforcement or nursing or being a lawyer, for instance, you know what skills you have to acquire at different stages of your career and where you're going to get those skills. And we have an opportunity in front of us to better define those skills for the outdoor industry and understand what skills are necessary across different segments and sectors of the rec economy. Second is to build an outdoor workforce for all. I think it's well understood that the demographics of outdoor rec participation are out of step with that of American society, and that also extends into the workforce as well. So we have a great opportunity, I think, to scale up many of the efforts that are going on to build a more inclusive and representative outdoor workforce, make sure everyone feels like they are welcome in and belong in the outdoor rec workforce. Third is to craft winning narratives on outdoor work. We need to tell complete stories like that whole set of outdoor careers that I shared earlier about the different ways you can build a career in the outdoor rec economy that are not just park rangers or raft guides, but also the people who are working diligently and tirelessly behind the scenes to gain access to the outdoors. And lastly, the most important workforce opportunity for us is to address affordability and housing issues in recreation communities. It's not a good long-term strategy for success if the recreation workforce is having to commute from 15, 30, 45 minutes to an hour outside of the communities just to do their work there. And that's a challenge we've seen, particularly in the West. I live in Jackson, Wyoming, which is kind of ground zero for affordability and housing challenges in the rec economy. We want to get ahead of these challenges in communities across the country. So affordability and housing are a key aspect of workforce development. That's why we're so excited to be part of the Outdoor Recreation Workforce Consortium, which is an initiative we just launched with WVU this year. This brings together 30 colleges and universities who are dedicated to the growth of the outdoor rec workforce. And working with Danny and Corey on this has been a real privilege. Here's what we need for a sustainable outdoor rec economy, and then Danny, I'll pass it over to you. We need certainty around trade and tariffs. Outdoor businesses like to plan well into the future, and so certainty around trade and tariffs helps with that greatly. We need public land protections. There were short-sighted proposals to sell off public lands as a means to address the deficit in this Congress. Unfortunately, the recreation community came together across parties to say that public lands are critically important to the rec economy, and we think there are better solutions for housing and affordability. We need adequate staffing and access on our public lands. We need to grow this relationship between nature and health, and then we need to support and sustain state offices of outdoor recreation and the impact they have on rural communities especially. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to share with you. I'm really looking forward to hearing what Danny has to say, and I'll take your questions at the end.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much, Chris. That was really insightful, and we really appreciate you here sharing all of your experience. I'd now like to pass it over to Danny to take a deeper dive into West Virginia. So Danny, feel free to take it away.
Great. Let me know if you can't see my screen, but it's so wonderful to be here, and you'll hear some of the same kind of threads that Chris shared. I'll be able to provide those as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat, and we can start addressing those after I get through this part of the webinar. Let's make sure it goes forward. All right. So you heard a little bit about the role that that outdoors plays in quality of life. So when we first started looking at one of the strategic challenges that the outdoors can play in West Virginia, we started taking a look at a multitude. As Chris highlighted, there's many ways that we could start really taking a look at this. This could be health related, economic, a little bit of everything. But what we recognized is that one of the strategic challenges facing West Virginia right now is our population loss. We know that about 61% of WVU and Marshall University students leave the state upon graduation. In my short time here in West Virginia, I'm a West Virginian by choice. We also have heard from numerous students that they feel like they have to leave the state in order to find some sort of success. So we know we have some brain drain. We also know we have an older population, an aging population, and we've also seen over the last 73 years, about 12% of our population decline. You couple that with some labor force participation challenges, and there are currently 24,000 open jobs. So we knew that this was a strategic challenge from an economic development. If you take a look at any state that has typically population growth, you will see business and economic development right alongside that. In particular, you would see Utah and Colorado have seen tremendous population growth. They've also seen tremendous economic. So we know that they go hand in hand. As a matter of fact, they almost parallel each other perfectly. So as Chris talked about earlier, he showed some of the national work around this. This is much more in Appalachia, but really what it is saying is quality of life matters more for population and growth and job growth. In particular, it's almost 2.5% more important in Appalachia and rural communities than it is even nationally. So we know that that matters more than quality of business, the business environment. Fundamentally, what that means is businesses and individuals are willing to pay more to live in an area of a high quality of life. They're willing to pay more for their houses. And in many cases, even research shows that they're willing to even earn less in order to live there because of those amenities. Chris talked about the Utah work. So what we did is once we started putting this stuff together, we did study other states. We've studied quite heavily North Carolina. So we've been paying attention a lot to what's happening in Tennessee, Colorado, Utah, Arkansas, and Idaho is making huge strides in this space right now. So we studied those and said, okay, where does West Virginia compare to those other states? Those who have recreated, I've been blessed to recreate in the state for over 25 years, though I've only lived here for about 6, is that we know that we have some of the best whitewater, and that's moving water. That's anywhere from streams to world-class Class 5 whitewater like the Gully River. We also know that that's really good for fishing as well. So we know that we have great river density here, which means it's proximal to people, which is important. We also know that we have some of the best climbing areas in the Mid-Atlantic. We then did some more asset mapping, looked at strategic areas to the state. We looked at areas that were 30, 60, and 90 minutes because, again, this is incorporating the work into where people live, okay? We want to think about where people are living and then how do they incorporate outdoors into their life. So that's why we looked at assets that are 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and 90 minutes, depending on the asset and the location. But it varies slightly, but holistically, what we found through this research, and we compared to Asheville, Boise, Boulder, some of these iconic locations, is that West Virginia has the assets in these spaces to make the same type of impact as the outdoors has made in these other states. So you heard Chris talk about the national work. I think it is important just to recognize is that though we have the resources, we do have the assets, we are still lagging behind in terms of the outdoor economy's contribution by percentage to our overall GDP. So what that really means is we are doing okay, but we haven't really ignited this mechanism, this tool, this asset in the state. And that's really what the team at the OEDC with partners like Chris and many others that are on this call are trying to do. So here's our approach. This is again, after doing some of this work for over 20 years, this is what we fundamentally believe an approach to activating the outdoor economy in West Virginia. And we look at the outdoor economy as the outdoor rec industry. That's the guides, the outfitters, and manufacturers. Then we look at our communities, making sure our communities have those vibrant main streets. They have those livability factors that we all look for: good schools, good healthcare, walkability, bikeability. And then you look at access to public lands. When you couple all of those together, that's what we take a look at as our lens into the outdoor economy. So we fundamentally believe we need high quality, accessible infrastructure that is close to people. Historically speaking, a lot of our outdoor assets, not just nationally, but even in West Virginia, have been built farther away from people, right? And so how do we get this to our community? Once we get high quality, accessible infrastructure, then we think about activation. And that's the people part of it. That's the business part of it. That's that part of that equation. And then once we get there, we promote it. So I'm going to talk about infrastructure first. Over the last, a lot of this work has been going on for quite some time, but what we're seeing is, especially from 2020 to 24, we saw a high level of investment in outdoor recreation infrastructure. We've seen legislation like the Explore Act, but in West Virginia, we have over 120 miles planned. That this is fully what we consider close to being shovel ready. We or planned with 86 miles designed and shovel ready. This goes all the way across from Forest Service to state parks and state forest, all the way to on our campus. The Land Trust has a big project going outside of Smithers and Montgomery. We also have two multi-million-dollar bike parks going in. We have greenway and rail trail expansion that's happening, and we're seeing gravel route development. So we are seeing some really great wins here. I would say that we have a goal, long-term goal, that every community can have 5 to 7 high-quality, accessible miles in their community, right? So this is out their back door. This is within 15 minutes of kind of a municipal center. I think we can do that. And then we should have a goal of 4, or so regional trail destinations / ride centers. These are places where you can go on the weekends, tourists would go to because they have the diversity and the abundance of trail miles. And this isn't just like hiking, biking. This would be river trails as well. So coupling all of that together. So I was also asked to talk about some of the things that, some of the excitement, some of the opportunities. So we're seeing a lot of gravel route development in West Virginia right now. This was led by our friends at Visit Mountaineer Country in partnership with us. They saw a unique opportunity to create it's already an existing asset. It's already built, but how do you map it and curate it? We were told that right now they believe, the person who mapped this, that we have the single largest curated gravel route system in the country right now. Curated, that's the key piece. It's a curated gravel route. Because of the success of that, and our friends at the local CVB here in Morgantown in the North Central region, we are now seeing that the Mon Forest Towns is taking this similar project on. We're seeing the New River Gorge interested in this, and we're seeing Charleston. And I just heard that the Eastern Panhandle is. So this is some low-hanging fruit that we can tap into. So the other thing I was asked to talk about today was challenges that I see. So if we look at, what it is, our opportunities and our challenges is funding. We have significantly more projects than an amount of money. I was just on some grant work, and we saw over $13 million of ask for funding recreation infrastructure for about $1 million that was available. So we're seeing a huge need for projects to be funded. In addition, we also need large-scale funding. It's hard enough to get the grant. It's hard enough to spend it. But when you have to keep going back and doing that over and over to take and get a 5, 7, 10, or 20-mile trail system built, that takes 10 years or so. And that's really, really hard for local capacity and communities to sustain. The second part of that's match funding. We're seeing a significant need of match funding, whether it is match at 20%. We're seeing LWCF come in at 50%. Match is a really hard challenge. I would argue in outdoor recreation, particularly in infrastructure, match is that creates a haves and have-nots. If you don't have the match, even if it's a great project in a high need area that would have high impact, it's hard to get that project funded. And then just complexity and capacity. We're seeing projects, they're just becoming more complex, the environmental regulations, the permitting, and then the reporting out on the funding structures. The second thing I would say is project readiness. Getting projects from idea to implementation takes some time, and making sure that we can sustain that. We're doing a lot of work in that space, but I still think it's a challenge to ensure that we have that pipeline really, really locked in. We see a lot of projects going for funding too early. They might have some nice lines or ideas, but they go for it too early, and then they end up spending a lot of their funding on getting the project ready for construction versus actually using it to build the trails or the rec infrastructure. We're seeing unrealistic cost estimates, and either they're way too high or they're way too low in terms of for implementation, because oftentimes when you get those cost estimates, it can be 2 to 3 years before you actually get to funding. So we're working through some of that. And then realistic project scope and sale. We're seeing some projects come in. These are great visions. I'm all about a big vision, but we're seeing some small communities come out with project visions that are 50, 20, 30, 40, $50 million. And that is a hard thing to accomplish for any large community, let alone a smaller one. So really thinking about how you can move dirt relatively quickly. We typically look at our lens as 2 to 3 years. So that's kind of the infrastructure piece. So then the activation. I think we're seeing some really great success through programs like Ascend, First Ascent, our partnerships with entrepreneurs and teachers Ascend. Why I think this is important is because we've had over 1.5 billion media impressions. We also have had over 65,000 applicants. What that is showing me that people are starting to recognize what we already know as West Virginians, that we have something special. We have great small towns, we have great communities, we have outdoors, we have something unique. So we know that people are wanting to and willing to move to West Virginia as part of this. In addition, we started First Ascent in order to try to address brain drain as part of that. So we know we're starting to get that engine moving to address population loss. We also know that the people that are part of these programs like to be active. They like to engage in their community. You can see we've had over 10,000 recorded attendees at over 1,500 events that we've helped host in partnership. These people want to be engaged and part of our communities. And that's the type of people that we really love here in West Virginia. I think another thing that we're seeing, and this is again another low-hanging fruit for those communities out there, these outdoor community gatherings, we are creating a playbook to help other communities do this. We can hand it to you and give you some coaching, but this is where you bring outdoor groups together, the nonprofits, the local advocates, the political leaders, and you get them together. And I can tell you, having attended several of these, the energy in the room, the ideas that are created, and just the community that's built cannot be underestimated. So this is, again, a great opportunity for many of our communities that are listening today. So challenges, capacity and coordination. I would say almost every community can use this type of support, but there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only but so much of our team. I think we also are challenged to align our work. I know there's so many great groups and organizations and individuals and projects that are happening throughout the state. So how do we coordinate and align that work in order to create what I would say might be the most important thing that we need to continue to work on together, is creating a shared narrative and voice that could ultimately end up into a brand, but that shared collective voice and strategy and alignment could go a long way. And I think we're working on that. So I don't want anyone to think that we know it's happening, but that's what we're trying to accomplish. And then create a mindset of abundance. I want other organizations to be more successful than we are. I want them to get the grant. I want us to get the grant. I want us all to be able to do this. And when we can do that, I think we have a real opportunity. And then obviously we need to avoid falling into the amenity trap. There's a great report that came out from a think tank, Headwaters Economics, with some other partners around what we've got to start looking for. As we are successful in this space, as the world continues to discover West Virginia, we know that there could be some challenges that we would face. And so making sure that we are planning for those, thinking of those, and ensuring that we keep true to who we are as a state and as an individual. And then final, I was asked to say, what are we looking for? What are we looking ahead at? Chris has already talked about this, but I think addressing workforce. We know that there is a workforce shortage in the space, ensuring that we can help fill that, to know that it is a viable and vibrant career. And again, partnering with Outdoor Recreation Roundtable has just been great to kind of help stand this up in its early days. So I get really excited about that. We're working on a project right now. We're doing a regional workforce assessment and programmatic analysis to try to create some of that alignment. And I think that's a really cool project. Again, trying to create synergies, thoughtful overlap, but making sure we all are kind of working together. And then I think Heidi from our team, we're blessed to have Heidi, longtime West Virginian by choice, under the leadership of Andy. Is, if I would tell you one thing that we haven't really touched on in some of our programs, it's some of the business work. And so we're starting down that journey right now to organize and align our business work together. So that's where we're headed in this work. And I'll tell you, one person, one program, one project at a time is really kind of our focus. So I think I got us pretty close back to time. I'll stop sharing and we can take questions. Yeah.
Danny, Chris, thank you all so much for these wonderful presentations. I know my wheels are turning and thinking about a lot. That was really incredible. So now is our time for everyone listening in for questions. If you would have a question, please feel free to unmic yourself and speak up. I have a question that I'm going to pass over to Rick right now.
Well, you can go first, Corey. That's okay. But I'll follow up on something that Danny was talking about in a very recent slide about this idea of branding and coming up with a kind of I guess, a consistent brand. That's the term, right? I'm wondering what that would be for West Virginia. We're so diverse, and each one of our tourism regions has relative strengths. It's a very diverse state, actually. The North is different from the South, and Canaan is different from Fayetteville. And what's the brand?
I don't pretend to know. I think I would say if we were to start the conversation, it would be what would be the collective voice and vision, and kind of align those first, right? And then it could result in a brand. We've seen other states do this well, but doesn't mean we'd have to. But what we do know is that if there is a collective kind of voice and alignment within that, I think that would be the first step, and it could result. And that's why I put a little hyphen there, Rick, because I'm like, it could get there. I probably should have put an arrow. It could get there. But I think really, like, what is it that makes West Virginia special beyond what other states have? Like, the why West Virginia? Out of when businesses think about it, when people think about it, why would they choose West Virginia over all the other states that have, similar and like amenities? And that's what I really mean by that. And I'm happy to think through it a little bit with you too, as well.
From our Rural Economic Development Toolkit, one of the sections is about brand building. And I think this first quote from Jim Glover in New Mexico is really illustrative. He says, branding is a lot more than creating just a logo and tagline. It requires that the community understands the mindset of the brand and works together to actually deliver on that brand promise. So you have to have that brand integrated in the community, and outreach is a really important part of that. And his follow-up is that he says that rural communities can't be all things to everyone. They're often so hungry to attract new residents and businesses that prospects end up not being a good long-term fit. So he was really underscoring the importance of a brand that's local, authentic, and also like specific. You don't have to have this brand that tries to capture every visitor within 6 hours. Sometimes like getting a fraction of those visitors who are really high quality visitors or long-term residents is actually much more valuable.
Yeah, I often think in terms of quality over quantity.
Exactly.
For West Virginia. And, the problem, we could talk about this for hours and hours, but one of the problems is the infrastructure. And if you're gonna focus on the quality over the quantity, those people they're experienced, they're knowledgeable, they have very specific desires, and they travel to these other places like Park City and Jackson Hole, and we're not that. We're never going to be that. And I don't think anybody here wants that necessarily. So you're getting back to what Danny was saying and what you just mentioned, Chris, this idea of local brand. I like that better than like statewide brand. I really do. I mean, this is just me talking, whatever, take it for what it's worth. But Davis is different than Fayetteville, and Smithers is different than Wheeling. I mean, the sense of place is really important, and it's unique and different. And how it relates to quality over quantity, I don't know. But I just hate to see us go down the road of mass tourism, and I worry about that. And I think that people will fight that in the state because they like the small town feel, and they like the affordability and the other aspects that go along with rural West Virginia. Those things could possibly change. So,
and I think we're in our timeline with this, right? And I would like to pass this over to Danny to elaborate on a little bit more. But from something where we're positioned that I feel like is beneficial for West Virginia is that there's been a lot of other places across the U.S. that are far ahead of us. Like this is one of our strengths in a sense of West Virginia is 20 years behind.
I totally agree.
And so now we can learn from the good plays and
Absolutely.
the plays of other people's playbooks. So, Danny, I want to turn it over to you. And can you elaborate on like where we are in this process?
Yeah, and right before I get there, I do want to answer Heather's question. How does Department of Tourism? So we partner with tourism very closely on several projects, particularly the Ascend and those program. What we know is that they've created the Almost Heaven brand. They've leveraged that. I think it was just recently announced that we are one of the third most visited states per capita, in the world, and we're competing with other countries. So we know, and again, going back to places like Colorado, Utah, Idaho, some of these other states, what we see is as tourism starts increasing, population growth tends to kind of go with that. And for any, and I get, the point of we want to make sure who we are, but, I spent a lot of time early on in this work, traveling the state, listening, whether it was one person or 10 people doing a presentation. And what we kept hearing from a lot of people who have been in the state for a long, long time, multi-generation, is they want to find a way for their kids to be here. They also remember what it was like when it was a vibrant area, when the state was really firing in all cylinders. And, and we would look at the highest population we had was around 1950. And that was about 200,000 people. And if you look at even economically in 1950, West Virginia was doing very, very well on many, many fronts. And so I think if we can start thinking in that terms, we have the infrastructure to handle that type of 12% growth, right, is really what it comes down to. And I think we could do that well. So as you would see, that's how tourism plays into it. Tourism, we call it the red carpet to residency as part of it. So we think about that quite a bit as part of this. But, Corey, to answer your question is, I think we are, though there's like places like the New River Gorge is very well known, and it finally got recognized by, to become the newest national park. But that area has the infrastructure, the outdoor amenities, infrastructure, the outdoor assets. They're working on the activation piece. They're dealing with some of the amenity traps that are happening because demand is outpacing, what's there locally. And so, but then you have a lot of other places within the state that haven't been able to tap into it. I talk about Petersburg quite regularly. If anybody's spent time in Petersburg, it's one of the most gorgeous view sheds I've ever seen in the state of West Virginia. And I'm like, if that place was out west, I probably couldn't afford to live there, right? And so, so you're thinking about how we are on this trajectory. And though we built a great foundation, I described we're standing on the shoulders of giants. People have been working on this topic and really in the outdoors for quite some time for conservation. But where I think we are from kind of getting that flywheel effect, starting to really start to move, I think we're at that beginning stage of that process. And if you look at places like Arkansas, North Carolina, these other states, they're typically in that 20 to 30 years in really leaning into this quality of life in the outdoors for it to really manifest itself into that economic prosperity. So I think we're on the road and we're moving down the road, but I still think we're relatively early on. And Chris, I hope we are there in 10 years. We are much, much further down the road. But that's what we're kind of thinking about. It's that 20, 30 year kind of effort to get this. So it took us 73 years to be at the lowest population that we've ever been. I don't think that it will take us 73 years to get back, but I don't want anyone to think that it's going to be in 5 years or in 10 years. It's going to take a little bit longer for that. So yeah.
Any other questions from the group? I have one for Chris. Chris, you get to work with many different communities, states, and get to see a lot of great examples. Where does West Virginia stand in that? What are we doing well, and what could we do better?
West Virginia stands out because of the OEDC. There is no college or university program that is quite so sophisticated in all the ways that Danny cited in his presentation at supporting local community growth and sustainable growth through outdoor rec. So that is a huge asset for West Virginia. In addition, West Virginia is very lucky to have the assets that it has, whether that's the Monongahela National Forest, or many of your state parks, or ATV trails or things like that. Like most states don't have that diversity of opportunities from both water to trail to ski hill. Where I think West Virginia has some opportunity is to get some buy-in and endorsement from the governor. I'd like to see Governor Morrissey be a more vocal advocate for outdoor recreation as part of West Virginia's future. And in preparing for this, I did see he's been part of some good state park announcements. So that's been great to see. But I think once he is, even more clued into the great work going on at OEDC, I think he will become that advocate for outdoor rec. And then I also think about not just the community support, but also the outdoor business support, knowing that it's tricky to break into the outdoor rec economy as a small business, and small businesses are the backbone of the outdoor rec economy. There are, I think, a lot of opportunities across West Virginia to support the development of small businesses, new businesses, or really what keep the outdoor rec economy afloat. So that's, I think, an opportunity there. I know there's been some of that work already, but just an emphasis on more. And I think Arkansas is a good example of a state that is really investing in their small businesses. Another thing I think that stands out about West Virginia is the sort of regional partnerships between rural communities. I'm thinking of the Mon Forest Towns partnership and the way that that partnership is enabling bandwidth between rural communities that don't have a lot of bandwidth to really maximize visibility for the region while maintaining those individual brands. I see that as very innovative. So all this is to say West Virginia is doing a lot of great stuff. And the reason for that is many of you on this call. But of course, there's always inspiration to be gleaned from other states.
Thank you for that, Chris. We have 2 minutes, so I want to honor any opportunities if anyone would like to unmute and ask a final question. Now is the time to do so. David asked, can you elaborate more on the quality of life matters more to population growth and job growth in Appalachia? Is there data studies to show the return on investment of quality of life investments such as park and trails?
So that original research, there's an article, the opportunity for Midwest rejuvenation that came out of the Brookings Institute was the original source of the study. And then a couple other publications took it. So David, I can send it to you as well. Look it up. There's also, they should be hopefully releasing the Appalachian portion of that study in the coming months. It's being led now out of, someone got it in there. If you go look at the source of the research from the Brookings Institute article, that's where you'll get some of the great work. Amanda Weinstein out of the Center on Rural Innovation is kind of one of the thought leaders with a partner out of Purdue University. And so one of the challenges, though, the question that you're asking is, okay, if I invest in that, what is the direct measure of ROI? So right now it's somewhat of an indirect measure, and that's the challenge, right? Where traditional economic development or business development would say, well, if you give me this tax incentive as a state or a local municipal, government, I can then prove to you through, my taxes that we created 400 jobs. So that's a direct ROI, right? That's a little bit easier to do than some of the way that we're doing it. They are using federal data to kind of help create that narrative, or to create for that research. So it's as good as, it's probably some of the best data I've ever seen around it and the way that they're thinking about it in terms of it. So I'm happy to talk more about it. David, if you're really, really interested, or share any resources that we have.
Thank you, Danny. And thank you, everyone, for your time today and for tuning in and learning about this nation and statewide outdoor economy. We really appreciate it. Please note that we're going to have more of these webinars and more different topics. So please let me know what you're interested in. You'll find out about the announcements of these. Please sign up to our West Virginia Outdoor Economy newsletter. You'll find that on our website. Follow us on all of our social media channels at the Outdoor Economic Development Collaborative. That's where you'll hear about the announcements. Thanks so much, everyone, for your time. We really appreciate our presenters, Chris and Danny, today.
Thanks, Corey.
Thanks,
Danny.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate y'all.
Virtual clap.
Yeah.
See you around.